Hey everyone, so welcome back. The first thing I've got to have you do is tell me, can you hear me? Because honestly, I'm now like, I've got PTSD about jumping on here and speaking for 5 or 10 minutes and having no sound. Oh, Margaret, what is going on? Thank you for the comments on the thumbnail. It's one I actually took probably last year back when my office was on the other side of my room. And I just think it's funny that I've never noticed the CTR for me doing something silly actually works that great. And but yeah, I was feeling silly this morning. And frankly, this channel, like my live stream channel, has 100 subscribers. So like, who cares? I can do what I want. Minted Empire Keith, what is going on? You know, I don't know that we have actually spoken before, and I have seen a couple of comments on at least one of my videos and others, and I would love to know more about you. What is going on? Like, what do you do? Like, what is your interest in our stream? Basically, this, I don't want to call it an insider stream, but that's basically what it is like, if you know, you know, and the people who are here are mostly like, we're all I think, same. We have really similar goals. We have similar dreams, like similar aspirations, work ethic, and all the rest. So, like, if you're here and you're new, like, tell us all about you. We'd love to hear. So today, I am repping my WP Eagle mug, and I got dressed extra special. I've got my Hasta la Vista Boss t-shirt, repping the gear today. Yep, that's right. Oh, and saying hi to the chat. I see Adrian and Fahed. What is going on? And Keith says, I'm building a few niche sites, only started last summer, lots to learn. Hey, I'm in, I think this is year 3, and I can still say that there is a lot to learn. Folks, if you're here, smash the like button. Let's tell YouTube that we are here, and hopefully it will encourage the notification to go out sooner. I think it'd be a bummer if people were interested in coming to the stream and got the notification in like 2 hours, which usually happens, right? As people are hanging out and then the stream is almost over by the time they get the notification. There is Paul. What is going on? Paul, I was actually going to ask you, I noticed in your last video there was some concern about like work, like, you know, making it hard for you to really get to your computer and to work on your sites, and just wondering how that is going and whether or not this week is going to be better. There's Manali. It is India, and you basically get the Superstar Award for staying up late to catch the stream. Thank you so very much. It's definitely appreciated. And if you have questions or you want to talk about what it is that you're working on, I'd love to chat with you, man. Thanks for being here. There is Jesse. That's our friend Niche Informer. What is up? And then 24K Will. Will says first, and I'm not sure why Will thinks he's first. First Will in the chat. First good friend. I mean, nah. All right, I'm out of it. Oh, so what is the plan for today? Today is just a solo show. I plan to check in with everybody and see how their sites are going. Is anybody facing any sort of specific challenge? Like, what was hard about this last week? I want to hear it. Like, this is a place for this span of time, for an hour, like, we figure out, okay, you know, what did we do this last week and what worked and what didn't, and then what are we going to do to move ourselves forward? Because ultimately that's the most important. I need to like wake up. Holy cow. The most important part is just to move ourselves forward. Checking the chat. Will says, hey, Amelia, Jesse, Margaret, and Paul. He's calling out basically the hustlers, folks who are working really hard. Paul says, not much better. Posted an article tonight though, and whoop. And I say, that is progress, folks. Like, sometimes getting to the computer once a week to get something posted is really difficult. So the fact that you could get there and then at least get something posted, that's a win, in my opinion. Because let's face it, people who are outside of this group, most of them aren't doing anything at all. And so you can't really beat yourself up for like thinking, oh, it's just one article. Like, man, that is one article. That's more than most people are doing, because most of those people are on their phones, like scrolling, like, how do I make money with PayPal? like PayPal money, like how do I make money? Surveys. Fahed says, question, guys, when do you know when to start a second blog? Thinking of starting a second one, first one lagging behind on traffic a little bit. Well, I'm going to throw this to the chat, and I'm also going to tell you what I think based upon my experience. And here's what I think about starting a second website. I started my first site and worked on it really hard. And then I worked on it for a couple of months. And then I started another site. And then what happened is I worked on that site a lot and then didn't work on the first one as much. So in general, with that experience, even though I'm somebody who really likes to be diversified, I really think that it was a mistake for me to start a second blog when I did, because I hadn't done a couple things on the first one. One, I hadn't gotten as much traffic as I would have liked before, setting that blog, free to just do its thing for a while. Two, I don't think I had done the work to learn enough on that first blog. So I went on to the second blog and continued that journey of learning. And when I say learning, I mean mistakes. When I could have continued to really focus on making that first site so much more than it was. And maybe it would have never become, this monster site making $1 bajillion a month, but there was still learning to happen. Now, the thing is, I can see why going on to another site early on before the first site makes sense. I mean, I'm looking at like Below Average Blogger, Mike's recent update. I think he has 4 sites now. And so he was going through the progress of sites 1, 2, 3, and 4. And right now, 1 and 2 are like he's really unhappy with the progress. But then sites 3 and 4, he's like really excited about it. So for him, he picked a niche and then another niche and then learned and learned. And so by that 4th blog, he felt like I think he's really figured some things out and is really able to take it places. But did he need to start 4 websites to get there? I mean, maybe. In general, I would say if your blog is relatively new and you're still concerned about why it's not getting traffic, I would probably double down on that blog until you were either, one, able to resolve the traffic issue or to identify what it is that's causing the problems with the blog and basically come to the conclusion that there's nothing that you will be able to do in order to fix it. I am definitely someone who struggles with jumping from project to project. And I think overall what that has done is dramatically extended my learning curve and prevented me from probably having some really good numbers, maybe as fast as some other folks, because I was still stuck in this learning phase. It's like never-ending learning phase. What do other folks have to say? Anybody else? Will says, I agree, move on to the second site once the first site is making money, and you can automate and delegate unless you're testing niches to see which one is the best. Totally concur there. Manali says, I'm 22 and I'm not working, training to be a teacher, eager to get into the online world. This is a great time. And I wish so much, maybe not more than anything, but more than many things that I had started when I was 22. So I envy you, my friend. And I'm super excited to see what you could do. I'm much older and I wish so much that I'd had all these intervening years to do what you were able to do now. Alexander is here. What is going on? There's Stephen Cruz. What is going on? I feel like we haven't had a chance to catch up lately, Steve. What is going on with your business? I want to hear about it. There is Steve Mack. Hi, Amelia. How's you? I am good, but the reason that I might be like a little like blurry around the edges is because I stayed up too late last night reading. Does anybody else here read? I don't watch TV and I don't like relax with YouTube. I read, and I finished a book. I think it's a trilogy. The 3rd book hasn't been written yet. And if you know about this series, you know, and you will also understand why it is that I'm so grumpy, because it's the Patrick Rothfuss series, the Kingkiller Chronicles, I think is what it's called. And he's finished book 2 and it's been 10 years and book 3 has not arrived. And so I stayed up late last night, finished reading it, and discovered that there's no book 3 and there may never be book 3. And I'm so not happy about it. Stiggs says, I agree. Will was first. Hey, you know what? At least we showed up with audio today, Stiggs, and I don't have to do like hand signals or Morse code or anything to try to communicate with everybody. Let's see, other questions. Adrian wants to know how Will's Pinterest strategy is going, and now so do I. So if you haven't already answered this in the chat somewhere, Will, inquiring minds want to know, how is Pinterest going? Let's see, Will says, hey, Adrian, the current site is growing, but not as quickly as my first site with Pinterest. The current niche isn't as popular on Pinterest. All right, so I mean, that does come back to Pinterest. Like if Pinterest is your strategy, like really knowing for sure whether or not your audience is there, because I'd like to think that I could post a lot of stuff to Pinterest, but if the audience, like I can't make them be interested in that thing, and like posting even really good looking pins isn't going to do anything if they're just not interested in it. They just like keep scrolling, oh, like pretty pictures. Paul says the site should pay for itself before moving on. All right, well, I think that is at least a very basic goal. If the site is not earning anything and you're paying for domains and hosting, that could be, or any other tools or anything else, that you should at least be breaking even before you decide to start something new. I mean, it would be nice even if there was at least some profit that was happening, but that's at least some sort of initial threshold. Is don't move on until you're actually making money. Keith says, question, when you launch a new site, do you bother creating a few social profiles, even if it's just for the backlink and a bit of social trust, or is that very 2010? And like everybody is going to disagree on this, and I have done this and I have not. My MIGA site that I'm working on right now, I went ahead and created a Facebook page for it, a Pinterest page for it, and a Twitter channel for it. Not so much for the backlinks, although, I mean, whatever those are worth, but I set up if this, then that, so that every time I post something new, that there's an automatic, what they call them, applet, that immediately goes to Facebook and Twitter and Pinterest and just post that. So that I think it's very natural. Like if you're thinking, okay, like doing natural posts, like it's natural for there to be updates on Facebook and Twitter and Pinterest when something is newly posted. I don't know necessarily that it's as natural to say, okay, this post was posted 2 years ago and now it's getting like this resurgence of traffic elsewhere. It's like even like when something gets links, like it doesn't necessarily always make sense for a post to be getting links blasted at it 2 years from now, because that piece of content has been around for a while. So for me, and in this experiment, I am creating social links, but not really thinking so much about the link juice situation. I'm mostly thinking about trying to create a website that looks natural, because I would like to do whatever I can in the future to avoid any sort of trouble in the algorithm for being unnatural. And I think that accumulating those types of social posts over time is more natural than doing like paying what are the micro workers to blast it out to 10,000 micro workers to all go and like your Facebook post on one day. Stig says, much older. I thought you were 29. Let's just stick with that. 29 is fine. I'll be 29 forever. Just don't look at this or any of these. Just don't do that. Jesse says, I read the Kingkiller Chronicles, big disappointment, no final book. I don't even know how he's going to get the whole of the rest of the stuff in the third book. I think this is 4 books at least, because he spent the entire second book. It's like the two towers, right? It's like this middle book of like lots of stuff, but the story didn't really get advanced that far, like at all. Like it was interesting and I enjoyed it, but the story isn't that much further along than it was at the end of book 1. Like I think the reason he hasn't written the last book is he knows that he has this gargantuan task of basically resolving the trilogy all in one book, taking the character from not very far in his like arc to someplace really far. And I think that's why I think he's just at home playing video games, like too stressed out to actually write it. Fahad says, to give you an idea, site 1 is about 9 months old, has about 500 page views per month, roughly 90 bits of content on the site, competitive niche, but it did make $5 per month. So Fahad, why are you looking to, like, what are you hoping to achieve with starting a new site? Are you thinking about building another piece of digital real estate that will grow over time? Are you thinking that the first site is just not that good? because it's not making that much money and you're impatient to try to earn those like dollar bills, like what? Because sometimes like there's this like if if what you're trying to do is you want to earn money, probably doubling down on the site that you already have that already has traffic is probably there. You already have some traction. You're out of the sandbox. The niche is competitive, but you're learning all these skills. Like I wish that what I had done instead of dumping, well, I enjoyed YouTube last year, but what I should have done with the case study that I started in 2019 is just like blast through it for 12 to 18 months before going off and trying to start another revenue stream. That's what I should have done. It would have been so farther along. But instead, I let myself get distracted and like, I'm going to say humbled. Humbled's not the right word, but I definitely felt like the wind taken out of me, wind out of the sails, like that analogy. When the May the 4th update happened, I just like, oh, this is a fail. I should move on, when I should have just doubled down. And I was listening to, who was I listening to? I was listening to the Spencer Haas podcast this morning in the car. And he was talking to Colin Ma. And Colin Ma had a site in December that he was working on that got hit. And he said, oh, I basically ignore updates for the most part. I mean, unless I like have been really crushed, but otherwise I just don't really pay that much attention to him. But he got hit in December and then just basically went full steam ahead on the site without giving up, and it corrected itself. Basically a month later, it's like, okay, well, if I'd stopped, then all of that momentum or progress wouldn't have happened. Maybe it wouldn't have corrected. I think we got to just keep plugging along on these sites until they have reached the point that we want them to be. And I don't know always that starting a new project will achieve that goal of making more money. If you are here and you have not done it, please give the people's elbow to the like button so that we can blast this out to other folks. It does really help with YouTube for the algorithm. Pete says not 29. It's not 29, maybe 25. 25. Steve says, I'm going back. Will says, yeah, I'm like behind. I guess it's because I have been doing too much talking. Manali says, thanks, Amelia. I've been watching you for a year and you're inspiring. Well, I'll tell you what is inspiring is hanging out with you folks, because there's a lot of people in this chat who have worked very hard in the last year since we started doing these streams. And we've had some people quit their jobs this last year, which has been really fun, even just to like rub shoulders with these folks. So I think it's good to like show up and start to get to know these folks, because I learn stuff from these folks all the time, just hanging out here. And it's really helped. Paul says, have you had much traffic from Twitter and Facebook? And believe it or not, I mean, what is much traffic? The answer is some. Yes. And the hard part with analytics now is that you can't always tell where traffic is coming from because people have their settings set so where analytics can't log that. But I do see that I get some organic referral traffic from Facebook and also from Twitter. Not very much from Pinterest, but it's probably because I don't actually do any optimizing for Pinterest. I just like that connection to be made on a regular basis. Pete says, how is the MIGA Make Amelia Great Again doing? Well, the site itself, I'm definitely running out of gas a little bit. I worked really hard in January and February, and I set myself kind of a hefty goal for what I can accomplish in any given month, but I want to get the site to 100,000 words this month. And I've had sick kids this last weekend, and I spent some time with the kids just doing fun things. So I'm a little behind, but I really think that this weekend will be a good one. I am excited to make the March update video when we get there, just to compare January, February to March. I'm excited. I just don't want to lose that excitement. I don't want to let myself really get distracted on something else, but it's so hard. It's so hard. Keith says, what app or plugin did you use to auto post to social? I use If This Then That. If This Then That, and it's a website, and you connect it up to WordPress and then connect it up to all of the social things. So I don't have to do anything else with it. It runs automatically. I totally hear my doorbell ringing, and I'm not going to answer it. I don't know who is calling. Will says, I can't see any harm in making social profiles. Might as well set them up. Yeah, I do. Steven says, doing well for the mega site. Is that your mega site or mega site? I published 27 posts in February, 37,000 words, which is awesome. And 121,000 words from January 1 until today. And I've slowed down on publishing. So slowing down on publishing, is that because you want to watch the content do what it's doing, or you're working on other stuff? But regardless, that's awesome. That's really great. He says, I'll get to 100 posts, and then I think I'll wait and see if this niche has any legs. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing. And I've talked a little bit about, there's another dude in our space who's making videos about his race to 1,000 articles, and he's really in a hurry to get there, which I totally respect. Like, really respect the hustle. Like, I love seeing people work really hard. That's just my main concern, is if you in 2 or 3 months go through a lot of effort to purchase content for 1,000 articles before really seeing if the site will take off. Like, I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm just conservative anymore on stuff like that. Adrian says, like Matt Diggity says, do all the things. I create my social fortress. That is a very Matt Diggity term. The Facebook page, Twitter, Pinterest in the first month or so, easier in the long run. Margaret says, let's see, there's also boredom, even if it's a good niche. A second gives it a bit of variety in the writing regime. I do agree with that. And especially for those of us who suffer from shiny object syndrome, like, it's really good to have something that you can turn to when you do get burnout on something, because then if the alternative is just to do nothing, well, that's not acceptable. So at least you have something else to do when you get tired of working on that other thing. Keith says, yep, Diggity says to follow the natural steps a real business would do when starting. Social is usually part of that. A few directory links too, I believe it or not. Maybe skip the spamming ones. Yep, they do directory links, but not every site is going to work for directory stuff. And like this Google My Business stuff, like, I have a hard time going and setting up like fake profiles and all the rest. I think that stuff is going to get sniffed out by the algorithm. Fahed says, I think the thing that scares me a little bit is the niche. It's all around remote working from home. And so looking at the keywords I went after, there's massive competition for them. Well, certainly, and like most of the world all of a sudden turned to remote working and working from home. It's like as a topic recently. And so it's probably more competitive than it was 18 months ago. But at the same time, like, it's something that may now become something more evergreen, and it might be worth like getting in there, sticking it out. Hard to say. I mean, that's the thing though, is like, now that you're like 9 months in, I mean, it seems like just to give up now because it's competitive, it seems you could give up now and start over, or you could double down and then say, okay, I will continue to do this until I'm 2 years in, and then I will have a much better working knowledge of what is possible. Let's see. Steve says, I have a site that I started in November of 2019. It has 268 posts and 744,000 words. He's got almost 100,000 page views a month, but only $650 per month in revenue. I need to figure out monetization for that one. Yeah, but it's like, it seems like it would be less effort to take the site from $650 a month to $1,000 than it would be from taking a new site from 0 to 650. Manali says, I'm a beginner. Should I buy a site to jumpstart? In my opinion, Manali, I think that you should start a site from scratch. Like, start your first site from scratch because it costs very little in the scheme of things to do that. Just like, think of all the things that go into running a site, being the webmaster for a site, managing the domains, managing the hosting, formatting blog posts, all those things. I mean, certainly you can bypass that by buying something, but how will you know if something is good or not? Like, how will you know? How you have no knowledge or skills at this point to say this is a good investment? And not everybody, but most people, their first site is not good. And so I would rather spend, $100 on hosting and $8 on a domain for a year to learn those things, or even less, depending on where you can get hosting, versus spending $1,500 on a site that I'm going to destroy anyway. That's my opinion, though. I don't think that jump starts and like skipping things, like skipping steps and hitting the easy button, that doesn't work in this space. Not really. Not if you're planning on being here for the long haul. I really don't. Pete says, short elbows, cannot reach the like button. Sorry, not sorry. Pete, I never knew that you had short elbows. I didn't actually realize that elbows were tall, or anyone else. Stig says, who is Rusty Brick in the description? Oh goodness, I have this like whole list of stuff. The reason that I threw a couple of links in the description because I wanted to mention that Rusty Brick is not somebody I'm affiliated with in any way, but I think that YouTube channel, the guy who does that channel, he puts out weekly updates, just like talking about Google updates, and just his channel is a really good one if you don't have a lot of time to go hunting around and like lurking in Facebook groups and you want to know, what's going on with updates. And for example, he mentioned in his last week's video that there had been some small rollouts that had come out, and I just hadn't caught the chatter on that. And I was curious and went back and looked at my traffic, and my 2019 case study rolled through it fine. But then my Empire Flippers purchase sites, I did notice bumps on February 4th and February 17th, and then some bumps in early March too. And so it's a good place to go to get information if that's something that you're interested in, especially for folks who are new and who are really concerned about understanding what's going on in the updates. And it's just like his videos are pretty short to the point. So that's why I put that there. It's just a shout out to that channel, and not because I hope to make anything of it or anybody paid me for that shout out. I just think it's a good resource, and I check out his videos once a week when they come out. The other things that I have in the links, I threw in the link to Tortoise Cashflow's Things Bloggers Say video. Last week, somebody brought up the video that I made the cut in that video. And basically what Anthony had done was he had just taken some cuts from various YouTubers in our space and put them together and made a cute little entertaining video. And for me, most of the video is me laughing. Yeah, mostly just me laughing like that, basically like that. And I just put it there because I thought that people should go watch it and to watch me laugh, but also just as a, I guess, like to point out how useful those videos can be, because by including some YouTubers, and you could say it would apply to blogs too, like bloggers that are higher profile than you. So including them in a roundup and then letting them know that it's there, and then they share it, right? So those are natural links back to his channel. Like his other videos might get between 60 and 80 views, and that video has more than 200 views, and will probably continue to get views as people continue to talk about it and share it and all the rest. Like, so that can work for blogging too, like doing roundups where you shout out people who are ahead of you or further along than you, maybe not like the upper echelons, but maybe one step ahead of you. Like that would give them a good reason to share it, because who doesn't like to have their ego boosted a little bit by being included in stuff like that? I mean, I certainly enjoyed it, and because it was tastefully done too. I mean, let's face it, I do basically laugh all the time. Oh, who is Rusty Brick? Yep, the pizza guy. If this, then that. Special. I'm like way behind on the chat. Make Amelia great again. Yes, well, good luck with that, because you have to be great to start from. Keith says, any plans to ever look at the buy and flip model? I eventually plan to, but at least 2 years in the trenches. Yes. Yes, I just feel like I have more skills to develop. I think I understand more and more every day about what works and what doesn't. But I think before I go into buy and flip, what I need to be able to do is to buy and grow into something really successful. And then because I have bought before, and I think what it highlighted was that I have an eye for due diligence and for some negotiation, but I still need to learn a lot about making the internet great again. Hence my current projects of starting from scratch and building and spending a lot of time in the trenches. So the answer is yes, just not for a while. Profil, what is going on? Thanks for dropping in. Minted Empire, buy and totally flip out is more likely. For me, that's probably true. There is Rick. What is going on? Thanks for dropping in. How is it going? Like, what is going on with you and your projects? Pete says, Amelia has bought sites, flip model maybe to come. Maybe next year, maybe in 2022. Paul says, Anthony's video was hilarious. I was laughing out loud. And yes, I was wearing the cat suit, which I love to work in. Just lately, I decided I was going to hold the mug and wear my Hasta la Vista Boss t-shirt. Rick says he enjoyed the video. Paul says we need more shorts. So I don't know, like the shorts don't necessarily perform that well. And I think people who only really get me like enjoy those. And it's not very many people. Minton Empire says Barry Schwartz from Rusty Brick. Yep, he is a real deal, an SEO for a long time. He has an ear very close to the ground. Yep, I think he's a great resource. So that's why I threw it in the description, because I don't think a lot of people know who that is. I mean, his channel only it doesn't have a lot of subscribers, and I think it should have more. It really should have more, and he's somebody that's worth following. I'm short enough already. You have no idea how tall I am. Like, really. Steve says, anybody else spend so long on some tasks like search analysis because of second guessing the decision and rechecking over and over on the same phrases? Yes. And what I find myself doing to try to overcome that is to spend like one full day of doing keyword research for a bunch of articles, and then I actually create the placeholder articles in my WordPress. And then when it's time to write the article, I just go to that article that the keyword is already chosen. I've probably already written the headline for it, and then just work from there and not go and do any more researching or confirming, because then I will spend the whole day working on that one article when I've already done the work. Like, why do it again? But that is something I do all the time. So especially when I'm writing at night after the kids have gone to bed, I don't have 2 or 3 hours to do more keyword research. I just need to write the article. So that's what I do to deal with that. Manali says, what is your opinion on operators like brand builders, human proof designs? I don't have anything negative to say about it. I think that there's a place for that stuff. Like, I really do. I just think that people are looking for quick fixes, and they want to throw money at problems to solve it. And there is a place and time for buying a pre-made site from human proof designs. I'm not going to say that that's a bad thing, but for folks who don't know what they're doing at all, I don't know that throwing money at a site in the hopes that you can jump over the learning curve of everyone else will get you to your ultimate destination. I think it just delays it. I honestly think that everybody who wants to invest, who wants to really dive deep into the space, needs to roll up their sleeves, start a site, and just go through the learning process. I kid you not, it is necessary. And there's so many people out there who could be saved a lot of heartache if they had just cut their teeth on a project that failed, so that then they could go on to a project that would succeed. I know what you mean, Steve. Stig says, I think she needs a magistrate in the office to remind her counselor, move on. Stigs, I do not know exactly of what you speak. Please elaborate. Paul says, heading off now. We'll watch the rest of the stream later. Keep on hustling. Paul has important things to do, like feed the family, I'm guessing. I don't know if Paul has kids, but if he does, it would make sense, because we hit the UK up at dinner time, like every night. Stig says 4'8". That is the size of my elbows, actually. That is how tall they are. Steve Max says, aha, I got a whole 2 key phrases written down for articles in a whole afternoon. Pete says, I can guesstimate. Stig says, are we going to discuss the wrist tattoo? No, we are not. Dinner time. How are the sites doing that you purchased through Empire Flippers? So I have not worked on them that much. And so the outcome of that project is a direct result of the amount of effort that I have put into them. And that is my own fault. At this point, I have earned back 70% of the initial money that I invested, and they earn pretty steadily every month. They have definitely been impacted like over and over again by the latest updates. And over time, I think I understand what is going on and why. So I have it in my mind, like on my to-do list after the MIGA site gets going, because I'm not going to start a new site. I think I understand enough about what's going on to turn my attention to the sites that I already have. I would like to try and sell something either at the end of this year or early next year. I just don't see for me that it's a good idea to have so many sites in my portfolio that I am neglecting. I could use that cash elsewhere. And I just don't think I'm really maximizing what I could do with them. Pete says, look at me now. We will discuss it without you. Well, feel free. Just be nice. That's all I ask. What's the best place to purchase sites in your opinion? Motion Invest, Flippa, or Empire Flippers? I think all of those places have their work out fine. I think that you can get sites from Motion Invest and Empire Flippers, and even Flippa, although I don't think that Flippa is where I would send most people to start, but you can find stuff on Flippa that that you can make into something. It's just a place you have to be very careful of. I think that there can be like good sites in Facebook groups and then one-on-one. What I really think more people should do is spend time getting to know each other, because I think most of us have sites in our portfolios that we would be fine getting rid of. Maybe they're a year or two old, or maybe older, and they're just not doing much, and we just don't want to go through the hassle of trying to list them and then trying to deal with selling them and escrow and all of the things. Like, I think that forming relationships with people you trust, so that you could sell a site to them or buy a site from somebody that you know, to where there's no big drama and you don't have to have any sort of fees or anything else. Like, I really think that's the epitome of what can be done if you're willing to do the work to make those relationships. I don't recommend people start with Flippa at all. I think that only people who should be buying off of there are people who know what they're doing and can afford to lose the money that they are investing. I wholeheartedly have had good experiences with Empire Flippers, and I don't have anything. I haven't bought anything from Motion Invest or sold with them myself, but I know the guys over there, guys and ladies, and I've spoken to John Gillum several times, and I can't say enough good things about what I think they're trying to do. And I think that they're just working through the kinks of having a new business. So there's a lot of other options, but I think that one-on-one deals, if you can form relationships, is really where there is some real money to be made there. Stig says, it must bring up memories of an old flame. You know, I find it more interesting to let you just like speculate on what it has to do with than telling you. Manali says, I guess you are right about going through the learning curve, especially right now as I'm training to be a teacher and don't have much money. Maybe down the road I will buy, maybe a year. I mean, maybe, but if you are training to be a teacher, I mean, that could be a good time to start a blog. You could create a blog about centered around the stuff that you are learning about. There's other people that are going through what you're going through, you know, and that information is also close at hand. So it's at your fingertips because you are learning it. It might be really easy to write blog posts about the stuff that you are learning in school for teachers. I mean, maybe you create resources for teachers in a specific language or for a specific topic like science or math or reading or a specific age group. Like, that could be a really easy way to not necessarily have to go off down the road of like researching and becoming an expert in a brand new niche when you are also going to school. But you could also use that as an opportunity to develop your skills as a blogger and a website operator. It says, got to go out to dinner too, thinking of updating my progress on my channel. You reckon it would be a fit? Probably not, honestly. You see people who are trying to like mash up their make money online stuff with their other stuff. And I don't think it works necessarily, because let's say you get people who are interested in your update for your make money online stuff. They subscribe because they saw that video, and then you push out more videos about sales stuff. And so then they see the thumbnail and they don't click on it because they're not interested in it. Then overall it hurts your channel. I think I just, people seeing your thumbnail being like, meh, not interested. I think it brings down other videos that might perform well as well. And people who subscribe for the sales stuff aren't going to want to be interested or click on the stuff about your make money online stuff, unless it's like so clickbaity they can't help it that anybody would click on it, even if they weren't interested in the topic. It was just like amazing. And yeah. Stig says, ha 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 ha, nice. Steven says, that's fair. If you've made 70% back, then sell now. You will be up, assuming the revenue has stayed consistent. Yeah, the revenue has bounced all over the place. I still think that there is like learning to be done on these sites. And so what I would like to do, honestly, is separate them out and then really put 100% of my blogging focus, because I don't have 100% of my focus in life on anything right now, but 100% of my blogging focus on one site. You really dig deep into it for 6 months to a year, and then let it be, let it go, and then see where it can be, because I think that I can learn. I need to learn. There's more I need to learn here. Will says, have you spoken to Luke recently? I haven't spoken to him one-on-one in a couple of weeks, but I have been watching his channel. I talked last week about how he had done the video where he had wrapped the tape around his head to cover up a spot. I did see that his recent video this last week was about actually getting clients for his CTR, whatever business, ilovectr.com or whatever it is that he's working on. So I think his content is really interesting. I'm looking forward to see where he is, where he's going. Why do you ask, Will? Have you spoken to Luke lately? What did he have to say? Steven says, there are some good sellers on Flippa, just have to be careful. Yes, that's why I just don't recommend that any beginner who has not tried to start a site on their own just to go there and get out their credit card. Manali says, great, you mentioned it. I was thinking of starting a teacher blog and write about my experience. Yep, you know, it may not take off, like it may not be the most amazing thing in the world, but just think about where you will be in the future when you're not teaching and you've had the experience of working with WordPress. And you never know where that skill will take you either, or how much it might be useful in your education. How many opportunities might there be for an educator who also understands WordPress? Or maybe there's a job within the school that you can then take on because you understand websites and WordPress. I can't see, I think more people should be trying to acquire skills for their life toolbox, because it never hurts to know how to do stuff. That's my opinion. Stig says, is Rusty spelled with one S or none? I think one, but I feel like that comment is a trap. Like you're asking because you expect me to say something wrong. I don't know. Yep, says Rutty. Are you looking at my description of this video? Did I get that wrong? Let's just say I have not drank enough coffee today is what I will say. Stick says, ha ha ha, yes, it's a trap. I will check the description after this if you like, and then we'll see. Manali says, how is your Flippa site doing? Saw your interview on WP Eagle. So yeah, that isn't something I actually talk about a ton. In 2019, I did buy a site off of Flippa because I wanted to know what that experience would look like. And I had never bought a site before. I wanted to buy a bigger site, but I wanted to know more about the experience. So I bought a site off of Flippa for $1,500. It was not monetized at all. And it had about 200 posts, like 200 posts of content. And the first thing I did was I got it approved for AdSense, and the seller had said that it couldn't be approved for AdSense, or there was something wrong with it. And basically I just changed the navigation and got it approved for AdSense right away. And it didn't have a ton of traffic, but it started making between $5 and $10 a month on AdSense. And then I moved it over to Ezoic. And what happened was now it makes between $30 and $40 a month on Ezoic. And then it did between $100 and $200 a month over the Christmas season, because it just had some posts on it that were really friendly to Christmas shopping, which I didn't realize at the time. I had written some new content for it, and so the new content performed fairly well. I just haven't put enough time and effort into it. I mean, it's not a six-figure site. It's still making way more money, which was none, which is what it was making when I bought it. I haven't done the math to see if I earned my money back yet from it, because it was making so little with AdSense alone. But yeah, I should probably do a video on that. I probably should work on that site. That should probably be one of my next projects that I work on, we'll just say. Will says, love the mug, Amelia. Me too. I'm a big fan of mugs. So anybody who wants to send me mugs, I will drink coffee from them in my live stream. There's Alex. What is going on? I've got my WP Eagle mug today and my Hasta La Vista Boss t-shirt. I'm repping all my gear today because it's fun. Hashtag me too. We don't know what Stiggs is wearing at home. What else is in the description of the video? I wanted to mention that the Make the Internet Great Again accountability group project, we are going on in the middle of March here. So this is the third month. And I think that just looking at what I am working on, that this will probably be the last month of this year that we are going to work on this project, like organized. I definitely think that the folks in the group who are getting something out of it should probably just get together and start their own accountability spreadsheet. I just think that for me, I probably am going to turn a little bit more towards YouTube in April, and I'm going to work on the podcast again a bit more. I have given myself permission to take a break in February and March, but I would like to pick it up again. And so I just probably won't be spending a lot of time in the spreadsheet. So I just want to put that out there. If you want to continue doing the accountability group, a Google Doc spreadsheet is free. Super easy. You can even share the link for it in that spreadsheet so people can go there if they want to. I did want to mention for folks that are interested is that Ezoic is doing their Access Now, like I think the last wave of this on March 15th. I should have the link for that. I can share if anybody is interested. Again, about 100 people hit my link last time. So I don't know how many people in this community who want to get in haven't had a chance to, but I am just going to share that link so people want to get it. It's going to be out on March 15th. Another thing I wanted to point out, and I think I put the link in the description, is I don't know if you remember, but last year, maybe even the year before, I had Richard Patey on the channel a couple of times. We did an interview and he was talking about his Substack newsletter. Well, he ended up selling that, just kind of like he ended up selling his Facebook group that he started and grew. And he's this master of monetizing an audience, like growing an audience and then doing something with it. And so it is now investing.io. And what I actually shared was the link to the podcast, because there's a premium newsletter, I think, but the podcast, a lot of the episodes are free. And there's some interesting people in that podcast. I think a lot of them should be familiar to us by now, but for folks who are looking for maybe like less mainstream podcasts that don't just talk about like hustle, hustle, hustle all the time, like there's some really good tips in there. I've seen a lot of really neat interviews in there lately, and I think it's totally worthwhile to go check it out. Keith says, yes, a video update for that site you bought would be great. Yeah, I've never actually made a video specifically for that site. And so I think what I will do is when I turn to that site, I will maybe do like a 12 months of working on this site. Maybe I'll just do, call it the Flippa case study, where 12 months of working on a site that I bought 2 years ago and I've ignored. It's an older domain, so it's like my buying an age site experiment that I have really done nothing with yet since then. Stig says, I'm sitting here wearing my Amelia shirt and hat. Well, your Amelia shirt is spelled wrong. So as long as we're spelling names wrong, you got an extra E in there, my friend. Pete says, delivery is impossible because the doorbell rings. You don't answer it. So no more mugs for you. You know, this mug was not delivered directly to my door. It actually went in the mailbox. Margaret says, your podcasts are great. I'm glad you're getting back to them. Yeah, you know, it's interesting because some people say they really love the solo ones where I just sit and like talk about whatever. And some people really don't like them. And the reason I don't do them very often is because they don't get a lot of downloads. People seem to be really interested in the interviews, but I've got to sort of get back to it and start doing more outreach. It just takes time. And right now I want to write articles instead of hunting down people and trying to do the things that are necessary so that when I do outreach to them, that they will be interested in talking to me. Stig says, do you still have to pass the Ezoic test during Access Now? Yes. If you do not have another site, like you're not already approved to use the platform for another site, then the answer is yes. If you already have a site that is active on Ezoic, I don't think you have to go through the training anymore. I think that they have a webinar where they can just help you get your second site up if you go through Access Now for a second or third or 10th site. Manali says, good, you had a decent experience on Flippa, heard about scams on Flippa. Yep, the seller for this site was somebody who I think is like the ideal person to buy a site from. This person this was their first website that they had started. They had started it, I think, 2.5 years before I bought it. And it was one of those things where they just wrote on everything and then ran out of gas. And so they were just tired of it. And it had content on it that was not that good. They had learned a lot, but they had obviously moved on in their journey. And they're just trying to unload it. And, I probably paid more for it than I should have. But at the same time, if I'm able to turn it into something valuable later, then it will be really a drop in the bucket, especially since I've earned a lot of the money back that I invested into it anyway. But yeah, no, Flippa is definitely a place where you don't mess around with like at all. Stig says, okay, good, keeps the riffraff out. If you use Amelia's link, then one of the questions is, what is my middle name? That is a great question. And I feel like Rumpelstiltskin, if you can guess my middle name, of course, Google will tell you, I suppose, if you look for it, but it's not Olga or Phyllis. Just saying. Diane, what is going on? Thanks for dropping in. Diane, I still feel bad about last week for accusing you of trolling us. And I will probably never forget that because I literally was so embarrassed. Oh, yeah. Just dropping in to say it's been great. Will not say anything about betting this week because you went red last week. Oh, I'm getting red now thinking about it because I was so embarrassed. You have to admit that it is dangerous to go into the chat of any sort of live stream and talk about betting or Bitcoin or anything on WhatsApp because usually people assume that it is whatever it is. But yeah, no, I do wonder, raise your hand or let me know in the chat if you have been sitting there listening to this quietly while getting some work done. I'm obviously not getting any work done, just talking with everybody. But if you have gotten some work done during this time, please feel free to let us know so we can shout you out and say that you are awesome. I'm going to check my to-do list to make sure that I talked about everything. Apparently, I need to go to the description and correct Rusty Brick because I spelled that wrong. Or maybe this is a trap, and I'm going to go there and it will be just fine. But I do think that folks should check out investing.io, not because they paid me to say that, but because I do think that there's a lot of value there, especially for folks who are planning on, this arc of operating and then turning towards investing in the near future. There's Sushi, working hard here. This is the first time you'd said anything. I didn't know that you were here, and awesome that you're getting stuff done. Pete is doing some work. That's great. Adrian said that he finished editing an article and hit publish. That is awesome. I feel like now that when I get off of here, the first thing I need to do is go and get some stuff done. And again, I say this a lot, but accountability triggers. I started off the stream feeling like not working. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't work before getting up to the stream. I sat and just looked at my phone a little bit, took a shower, got some coffee, and didn't have any momentum. And now, after talking with everybody about everything they're working on, I'm looking forward to getting on to the projects for the rest of the day. So my live stream on Wednesday is my accountability trigger, and I have to thank everybody for helping me do that. Keith says, yes, I've been listening while washing dishes after dinner. Hey, I'm all about multitasking, really. Will says, not work, but on the exercise bike, also good for multitasking. And hopefully we're at least distracting enough to keep you from dying of monotony on the bicycle or on whilst trying to bathe the kids. So right now your children are there and they can hear us, or you have it on the headphones, because if the kids are listening, then I will be very glad that this is a family-friendly stream. Rusty is not a paid promotion. It is not a paid promotion. He does not know who I am. In fact, I have done some outreach to his channel and got no response at all because I just thought he'd be interesting. But that's the risk that you run when you're doing cold outreach to people who don't know you, is they will see your emails or not see your emails and not be interested. And so, yeah, I did think that individual was somebody, though, I wanted to talk to. I thought that he would interview. He found it. Jesse says, I'm editing articles on a new purchase. Keith says, actually, this is my first time ever commenting on a YouTube stream, and it's entertaining my kids. Connor, and you're gonna have to tell me if I get this name right. Is it how do I say your daughter's name or son's name? You're seriously help me, people. Connor, I can pronounce, but I need help, like now. Connor, if you are there, your dad is awesome. I'm assuming that's your dad. But he's here, like, working to improve himself. So that's cool. More info, please. Now, you guys, I need help. Clodagh, your dad is also awesome and tells you girls can do stuff. Women can do stuff. That's what he's teaching you right now, is that girls can do awesome stuff. Stig says, you were in criminal defense. You know, there is a reason why I now have like to sit in my office, in my bedroom, wearing an Hasta La Vista Boss t-shirt and drinking from my WP Eagle mug, is I used to be in criminal defense, among many things, and this is better than that. Clodagh, spot on. The kids' minds are blown. Yeah, well, they can come back every week. I try really hard to keep this as family friendly as possible because you never know who is listening. And I do have children also, and I wonder if one day they will watch any of these streams. And I would like to be proud of what we were able to do here, even if I spend the entire time laughing. Like, all right, so before we go, I want, if everybody could, who's on the stream, is just say, okay, like, what's one thing that you want to get done before next week's stream? Maybe something that you have been wanting to do, but maybe, or haven't been wanting to do and just need to get it done. I need to choose who my hosting provider is going to be. I have SiteGround, and my services are expiring on one of my groups of sites here at the end of March, and I've got to move, and I've been like dreading making decisions because I hate migrating sites, but I need to make this call. So that is what I plan to do before next week. What are you, ladies and gentlemen, not wanting to do that you will try to get done by next week? Stig says interlinking, dread. That's on my to-do list too, but the hosting thing, I feel like, is a fire, because if I don't make a decision soon, it's going to renew automatically and I'll be stuck with SiteGround for a whole nother year, which I may not want to do. Jesse says, I bought a site directly from a seller, lots of potential, but needs a lot of work. Margaret says, I have to migrate my site from SiteGround to Host Armada by the end of the month too. Not looking forward to this. WP Eagle says, how many sites? My man Phil can help. Yep, I've got, I think, 4 on that account, and I'm just not that excited about SiteGround. I have WPX. I have another group of sites on WPX, and I'm not like super sold on moving over to WPX either. But at the same time, I don't want to go into like a huge discussion about hosting, because ultimately, I think for most of us, the best host that you can have is the one that you use, because the difference between having hosting and not having hosting means like you haven't started. So I just try not to really focus on it as being like a big thing, because for most folks, it's like a major hurdle before getting started. Stig says, I'm on Host Armada and loving it. Phil is excellent, fast servers, fantastic support. Use Link Whisperer, the free version works as well. One thing, making Amelia even greater. Again, before next week, it's a work in progress. Basically, everything about me is a work in progress. He'll move everything for me. You know, that is something that is really attractive, because for me, I get so stressed out trying to migrate stuff. I just worry I'm going to destroy everything, and then that's kind of what happens. Host Armada is great too. Adrian was going to look at that, didn't know there was a free version. I actually didn't know that there was any free access to Link Whisper either. Alex has got his discount code in there. Affiliate. Yes, thank you for the disclaimer. I appreciate it. I have heard folks talk about Phil in the past. He actually was really helpful, because I think I had sent something in a live stream that I didn't know how to do something, and he went out of his way to find my email and email me the answer to my question, which sort of blew me away, because, I mean, not many people will actually drop everything and reach out and answer a question, especially for somebody that they don't know and have never talked to. So I just want to shout him out. He seems like a very diligent, hardworking individual. Diane says, Diane moved to Host Armada, and I sent them all the information. They did the rest. Was worried, but it was pain-free move. Jesse says, I like known host, great support. You know, I have never heard anyone else who is on known host. So that's cool to hear of what other folks are working on. So I gave the shout out for what people want to get accomplished by next week. And so far I've gotten 3 or 4 of them. I shouted out what I was going to do. But before we go, what are you going to get done? What are you going to get done by next week that you don't want to do? Host Armada is great. Move some sites from SiteGround this month. Fast, light speed servers. Stig says, my money sites are on Cloudways, but starters on Host Armada. I did not realize so many people were using Host Armada. I did not know that. Who's to say? All right, well, folks, it's top of the hour, and everybody has stuff to get done, and so do I. And for the folks that are listening who have little ears, Connor and Clodagh, it was nice to meet you. I can't wait to see you back next week. And everybody else, I've got Alex and Jesse, Margaret, Adrian, Stiggs, and Rick. I don't know where Niche Safari Chris was today, but if he happens to listen to this, we missed you, Chris. It's been really fun, everybody. And I look forward to talking to you again next week. And I hope to report that I've actually gotten a lot more done than I got in this last week, which honestly was nothing to write home about. Speed versus SiteGround. They're helpful and cheap. Great show. Thanks a million. Come again. You're always welcome to come and hang out with us. Keith, we're here every Wednesday, same time, same channel, all the things. Cloudways is good for high frequency. All right. Well, folks, take care. See you next week.